Hi guys, my name's Richard and I suffer from mental illness. So in today's episode I'm going to be talking about anxiety and depression, how they physically feel to me, how they're connected, how they affect my day-to-day living, how they can affect my judgment and my decision making. So if we start with anxiety, I think I've mentioned already in a previous video how that physically makes me feel. It's like a fizzing inside my body, that every nerve is on edge. I get an incredibly heavy chest, as if someone's pushing against my chest or there's a weight on my chest, which then affects my breathing. And I get very short of breath. If I've been suffering anxiety for a while, it also feels like my head is expanding, or my brain's expanding in my head, leaving no room for anything else. So no room for any clear thought process. It affects the way I hear my voice. It almost feels like my voice is being spoken somewhere else, like in a cave. It's almost like an echo that I can't really hear properly, and I can't hear other people properly. That's kind of how it feels on the kind of extremes. It's very similar to being nervous, but on a much higher intense level and for a longer period of time. Now, I still get nervous, and I know the difference between nerves and anxiety. When I'm nervous, whether it be because I'm going to do, I don't know, a job interview or a speech or teach a new class or whatever it is, I get the sweats generally. My face goes very red and I talk at 110 miles an hour. But once I start doing what it was I was nervous about, generally, I'm okay. And I settle down, and then the adrenaline kicks in, the showman kicks in or whatever, and that soon subsides. But with anxiety, it doesn't go away. And throughout all the therapy sessions I've had, all the counselling sessions I've had, all the various different tablets I've been on, I haven't found anything that can control my anxiety. I've tried various breathing techniques, and to be honest, those breathing techniques actually make me worse, or make me feel worse. I don't know why. I guess it's the thoughts in my head saying, you know, this should be helping, this should be slowing this down, you should be doing this for a reason. And when it doesn't work, that's when the depressive kind of stuff kicks in, where, you know, the self-loathing, the worthlessness, the etc. So it actually makes my anxiety worse. But my anxiety can last, it can last as little as half a day. It can go on for days. There's no real kind of, I haven't found any sort of rhyme or reason or pattern to it. But I do know physically, if I've been anxious for maybe a number of days, I start getting hives, specifically round by my neck area and on the side of my left hip. It's very similar to kind of heat rash. It feels really itchy. And there's nothing I can really do about it. And worse still is if I'm been anxious and really badly anxious for a few days, I start to get spots on my top lip, round by my nose. It looks like I sniff glue. I don't sniff glue. It's just anxiety. So yeah, that's physically how it feels, and you know, how I know that I'm getting worse. But as I say, there's just nothing I can do to stop it. From a mental point of view, being anxious, you just it feels like you've got a surge of adrenaline, but not nice adrenaline, going through your body. So everything you do feels tense. And the slightest little mishap can mean the end of the world. example of that is I like coffee, very much like coffee. I've got a really nice coffee set up at home. I've got a nice coffee machine. I get nice beans to put in it, etc., etc. And I'm very, very regimented in a lot of the things that I do. I like routine. I like doing things in order. And making coffee is definitely one of those. I do it the same every single time, down to the same movement. Everything I do about making coffee, I do the same way every time I make myself a cup of coffee. But for example, today, I was making a coffee and I was feeling a bit anxious today. Maybe because I knew I was going to be filming one of these, maybe, I don't know, but I just felt anxious today. And I was swirling the old froth milk. So you froth the milk and then you swirl it to try and get rid of all the big bubbles. Now, I've never been a great swirler, whether it be frothy coffee or in a saucepan or you know, when chefs do all that flippy and all that kind of stuff. When I do it, food flies everywhere. So I've never been a very good swirler. And today, as I was swirling, because I was keeping my eye on the coffee, because I just started a new bag of coffee and each bag of coffee is slightly different. I was keeping an eye on that to make sure the pressures was correct and it was going to come out properly. That as I was swirling, I spilt some of the milk. Now, to most people, that's like, oh well, just mop it up. To me, it was the end of the world. That's how stupid this anxiety can get. It's like, oh, why did I do that? I was looking at that. I should have been concentrating on that. Blah, 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 blah. I thought I got this nailed. I made coffee. I thought I'd mastered it, but oh no, I haven't. That's how anxiety can make really, really small little things that most people wouldn't bat an eyelid over really intense. And that's linked with the depression, in that I know that anxiety and stress are probably the two key triggers, or have been the two key triggers for majority of my breakdowns. As I mentioned in the last episode, when I talked through my breakdowns, there's a pattern to all of them. And stress and anxiety are definitely part of that. As I explained, that, you know, it's like lava flow. Lots of little streams of lava all converging underneath the volcano. And then when it gets to a certain pressure, the volcano explodes, or erupts, I think is the technical term. And that's what my breakdown is that eruption of that volcano is my breakdown. So I know that anxiety is certainly one of those triggers. Now, just because I'm anxious doesn't mean to say I'm going to have a massive breakdown. That's not how it works. There's other streams that kind of create this perfect storm. But when you get anxious and you think things aren't going your way, whether it be spilt milk or whatever, then the thoughts come in, those depressive thoughts come in, the selflessness, the self-worth, the guilt, the shame, and all these negative things that, as a depressive person, I think of myself all the time. That is triggered by sometimes the anxiety. And it's those depressive thoughts that then start clawing you down and dragging you down. And that's kind of, you're on that slippery slope. The other side to my depression is not really connected to anxiety at all. There are times where all of a sudden I just get this wave of sadness. There's no negative thoughts, there's no dark thoughts. It's just literally this wave of sadness just comes across me. And depending on how full the glass is depending on how I react to that wave. If the glass is near the top and it's nearly overflowing, that's easy, because I'll just go and have a cry for 10 minutes, half an hour, whatever. I'll take myself away and I'll just deal with it. That then reduces the sadness feeling. It's still there, but it softens that sadness feeling, that wave, because you've emptied the glass, or I've emptied the glass. The worst one to deal with is when that glass isn't ready to be emptied, when it's, you know, it's nowhere near the top. You just get this wave just hit you, and there's nothing I can do about it. You know, I can't force myself to cry. And they're really hard to deal with, those waves, because the way I deal with them is trying to carry on as if nothing's wrong, rather than opening my mouth and saying, look, I'm having a bit of a tough day today, or I'm in a bit of a low mood. I'll just carry on. And that's really hard. As I've mentioned before, you know, mentally that's tiring, because all you want to do is just curl up in a little ball and just let this wave go over you, because you know it's going to go. You don't know how long it's going to last, but you know if you can just get through it, it's going to go. But again, there's no way of controlling when and if these waves are coming. You know that, you know, if something sad happens in your life, or you see something, or you feel guilty about something, then we all have those moments. But when that wave just comes over you, and you just can't control it, you just 1 minute it's almost like a cloud going over the sun. This depressive sadness just hits you, and there's just nothing I can do about it. As I say, especially as I don't talk, apart from you guys down the lens. So how does it affect my decision making? Well, I've got myself now in a position where I try and reduce my anxiety, because there's certain things that I know I can do that will trigger anxiety more than anything else. So over the years, I've kind of positioned myself in a lifestyle where I try and limit the anxiety. It's almost like an overprotective mum and their child, not letting their child do certain things, because if you protect them, they can't get hurt. But on the flip side of that, if you don't let them do it, they're either going to rebel, or when they do grow into their own 2 feet and go out and do stuff, they can be so behind everybody else, and that's going to make it worse. So over the years, I'm not particularly social as a person. I haven't got many friends, and that's not a, oh, boo-hoo, poor you. That's because that's what I want. I don't want to have to socialise all the time. I'm not one of these people that will constantly go down the pub and drink with people, or whatever, or go out with people. That's just not me. I did that when I was younger. And the other problem that causes, or it did cause, I've learned from experience that as soon as I socialise, then I start getting competitive. Let me kind of quantify that. When I was an estate agent earning lots of money, I was socialising all the time. But that then caused 2 issues. Firstly, I like to think of myself as quite a generous person, and I'm one of these people that if I give something to someone, that makes me feel good. So I like to think I'm quite generous. But I'm also very competitive, because I want to be as good as everybody else. So if I socialise more and I hear someone's got X, Y, Z, then I want either to match it or be better than that. I was very materialistic when I was an estate agent, not so much now. And also was very faddy back then as well, because if I met someone that was into something, I would gravitate towards doing that. Or if I met someone else who was into something else, I'd gravitate towards that. Whereas now, I still have fads, but nowhere near as bad. But I do things for me now. So if I want to film, for example, I want the best equipment that I can afford to produce the best results that I can from that equipment. It's not because someone else has got this set up, it's because I want it for me. So that's how things have changed. So I've created this family bubble, and I mean my immediate family, so my wife and my 2 kids. As long as we're happy and safe in my house, then I'm less anxious. I know I've got a safe environment, I've got a safe place to be. Not to say my wife doesn't make me anxious, because she does. Prime example is my wife is a typical woman that when she gets home from work, she can't sit still for more than 2 seconds. She comes in and does stuff. Because there's always something to do, right? There's always washing to do, there's always this to do, there's always that to do. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that it's not there because I haven't done it, because generally it's there because I haven't done it. And I feel incredibly guilty and anxious when I'm sitting down or at my desk in the office or whatever, and she's running around doing household stuff, and I'm doing stuff either for me or I'm not doing anything at all. I feel incredibly anxious, incredibly guilty, but I can't do anything about it. Now, I know that sounds like a real cop-out. Oh, it's an easy excuse, Rich. And that's how I feel. Oh, it's just an excuse, Rich. And then I feel more guilty. And then it just makes it worse and worse and worse. And I know that's the case because even when I've done stuff that I've, don't get me wrong, I'm not husband of the year or anything like that. If I've mowed the grass, for example, or I've cleaned the bathrooms, or I've done something, I've ticked some boxes. When she comes home, she still finds stuff to do, and I still feel guilty. And there's still nothing I can do about it. So I don't know if that says more about me as a person or whether that's how I've been moulded because of my anxiety and depression. I don't know. And this is the problem when you suffer from these issues for so long. You don't know if that's the mental illness that's stopping you doing stuff, or whether you've conditioned yourself to stop doing stuff, or whether you're just a lazy git. I don't know. So as I've said, I've sort of positioned myself now where I can socialise if I want to with the people that I consider friends, or I don't have to, and I don't feel guilty about that anymore. If someone says, oh, we're going out to such and such, I will consciously say yes or no. If I say no, then I feel comfortable saying no. Whereas before, when I wasn't as confident, I would say, oh yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I'll let you know, I might see you there. That was my go-to phrase, oh yeah, I might be there. Because I knew I wasn't going to be there, but I didn't want to say no. But that's how I've learned to adapt my life to try and keep the anxiety to a certain level. And as I said, I'm very much a routine person. I have the same routine in the morning when I get up to go to work. I have the same routine with my breakfast, the way I shower, the way I prepare coffee. Everything is the same routine. I leave for work at the same time every day, or the days that I'm working. I do filming on a Wednesday when I'm doing my weekly updates. I will always do, if I'm doing a class, I will film that on a Thursday and then I edit it on a Friday or a Saturday. There's a routine that I stick to because it means there's no surprises. And it means I'm not anxious to think, oh, I need to do that, I haven't done that yet. Well, it's all right, I've got these days to do that. The days that it's worse is when I haven't got anything planned, because I just end up doing nothing. I have all these grand ideas about, oh yeah, what I'm going to do today, and then I do nothing. That's why routine's so important to me. So that's kind of how anxiety and depression kind of work. As I say, with the anxiety, it's just a build up, a build up, a build up, a build up. and say there's nothing I can do about it. The depression, there's two sides to it. There's the wave of sadness that just affects me, just that wave. And then there's the negative thought depressive person, that if something doesn't go right or someone's doing something and you should be doing it, there's that guilt, there's the, you know, the worthlessness and everything else. And unfortunately, no matter how much therapy I go through, no matter how much counselling I go through, however many books I try and read, I've never finished a self-help book. I've never finished a book about mental illness, ever. And I've tried on lots of different occasions, but I've just never finished one. I've tried to watch things like TED Talks and stuff, YouTube stuff about depression. I don't understand a lot of it because it doesn't relate to me. And the problem is when you're, or certainly I find as a depressive person or an anxious person, that it feels as though you're the only one to ever go through what you're going through. Because we don't talk about it. I don't go to group therapy sessions. Why burden someone else with your own feelings when you can't deal with them yourself? Or is it that pride thing where you feel weak and you don't admit you're weak? Well, I heard something the other day that 1 in 2 people in the world suffers from some form of mental illness. 50% of the population. So why do we feel so alone? It's something I'm going to discuss in another episode about why we feel alone and the lack of awareness of mental illness, etc. So I hope some of that made sense today. Thankfully it's a little bit shorter than the last episode, which was epic. So it might be easier to digest this one. And I hope, as ever, if you're suffering or you know someone who's suffering, you might be able to relate to some of the things I've talked about today. Or it could be complete gibberish, I don't know. But hopefully you got something out of it. So, as ever, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for all your feedback, your comments and your messages. They really do mean a great deal to me, so thank you for those. And I hope if in any way, shape or form I've helped you, then great. Stay safe. I'll see you next time. Cheers, guys.